Hello, it's Dennis O'Brien back again on Let's Talk About It. And Susan Johnson she was doing something when I left the house, doing something professionally, and said she was going to be a little late, but I expect her in a few minutes, and I hope she comes because I really need her to make sure that I stay on in my lane and do the right thing and say the right thing and don't go too far afield. But anyway, I'm really pleased to be here with Matt Rupar and his smiling face. Matt is always in good spirits whenever we're here, and I know he does the same with all the other shows because they all compliment him and doing a great job here for WILI AM and FM. Now, don't forget, now we're on AM. If you're trying to get it on AM, it's not coming in good. Try it on FM because we are on 95.3 FM. In case you didn't know, and believe me, I'm saying that because people in the community have, during the past week, have said, "Oh, you're on FM." I mean, some people don't know, and I understand that because I know because I'm here almost every Friday, and that's why I know. But I'm very, very happy to be here with Matt, and I'm happy to be here with my old friend Ray Axelrod. Ray Axelrod and I go back a long way. Right when I was a legal aid lawyer back in the day.
We were both younger.
We were both equal number of years ago, and we were both definitely younger. And I worked with legal aid, and Ray was a volunteer, a student, right?
Intern.
An intern. Okay, at legal aid, and I worked with a unit that Susan worked with. And I believe with legal assistance to Medicare patients?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah. Ray learned about Medicare and knows something. It's been a long time now, Ray.
I know something, I just don't know exactly what I know.
Yeah, that's right. I feel the same way about that. But I hear about it more. I hear about it from Susan every once in a while, and she brings me up to speed, sort of, to the extent that anybody can bring me up to speed on anything. But Ray has always been a person who will step in and help the community with something, and he doesn't ask to get paid. Okay, he's a good guy. He's somebody who's very valuable to the community, and he's patting himself on the back now. For those of you who are watching on radio, too. But he is. This show will be seen on Charter TV 192 in about 2 weeks, maybe 3, on a Friday at 8 p.m. So you may get a chance to see Ray Axelrod. He can still do it.
Pardon the whiskers.
Well, I shaved. That's why I shaved the show. I had a 7 days growth of beard. I had to put a new blade in the razor because I had a surgery on my face, believe it or not, last Tuesday, and I had to bandage my face. I just took the bandage off today. Well, I was changing it every day, but I had to put another one on. Just took it off today. I decided I'd shave for our viewing audience.
You're looking good.
Anyway, thank you for not bad for 80.
Not bad
for 80.
At all.
Okay, well, thank you. See, we've got a mutual admiration society going on here, and the other thing I want to say is Ray's guest appearance on our show has become sort of an annual event, and because Ray is when you think of I know you're not the president and you're not listed with the officers anymore of the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum. But when I think of the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum, my thoughts turn to Ray Axelrod.
Oh, gosh.
Well, you've been there
Watch out, Dennis.
You've been with it for a long time.
Yeah, I've been with it for more than 30 years. So.
The president of the creation, no? Pretty much.
Yeah, or about 6 months after its formal creation, as far as the Railway Historical Society chapter and all that, our original charter.
We're going to get into that in a few minutes,
right.
Maybe 2 minutes, but I just want to point out that the main reason why we see Ray every year around this time is what, Ray?
It's Railroad Day coming up on September 2nd, 11 to 4. We've got train rides and some handcar rides, displays, sales tables, the Kids Garden Railroad, as well as the crawl upon the Betty Lou and the other cars that are in that wood railroad that kids can actually crawl on and through. We've got a picnic area. Come on down and see. You'll discover a lot down there. Anyway, back to Dennis.
You got music, too. You got music.
Yeah.
We always have music.
We got Duke and other people playing.
That's right.
Playing the guitar and the banjo.
Okay. And
I don't guarantee the banjo, and I promise not to play the banjo.
They'll be singing railroad songs among other things.
Yep.
Okay, and I always enjoy that part of the show, and that goes on for a while.
Yeah, that goes on basically the whole midday time.
Midday time.
Yeah, we actually, if people need to get there earlier, the museum actually opens at 10, but the formal program will be like 11 to 3. That's what that's the big push time.
I got to tell you, I always, every Friday morning, if I haven't already notified Wayne and John Tuitt about who our guest is going to be on Let's Talk About It with Matt Rupar, who's always here, and Susan Johnson, who's
That's a permanent guest on his own show.
pretty much, and Susan Johnson, who's usually here, and I'm hoping I'll see her pretty face come through that door real soon. But anyway, what I always do is I contact John Tuitt and Wayne Norman and tell them who the guest is. And this morning I did it before I had my coffee. And what I wrote was...
wow, I'm merit.
What I wrote was... well, I sometimes I get up a little earlier. What I wrote was, after looking at your website and seeing the hours for the event on September 2nd, Railroad Day, I wrote it wrong. I wrote 11 to 2. And so John Tuitt announced it as 11 to 2. And then I wrote back to him. I said, "Oh, John, I screwed up." He said, "Well, I'll fix it on the next broadcast." He said, "But don't worry about it. The event's not until next week." I said, "My feelings exactly."
I wouldn't worry. If people know it's the 11 to 2 part,
That's right.
or 11 to 3,
They can always hang out.
They can always hang out for another hour and walk around, take another train ride.
Ray just said, actually, when he opened, and I asked him about the day for the first time, you said 11 to 4. When I heard you say that, I said, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?
Well,
11 2, 11 3, 11 4."
Because of that, the event is 11 to 3, but the day, our actual formal day, is 10 to 4.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that, but I wanted you to say it. I was guessing.
All right.
So
Set
I got
me
it
up
right.
and I'll walk right into the trap.
Okay, so
No, it's fine.
no, I'm your friend. Come on.
I know.
Anyway, I plan on being there.
Yeah, but we have to pick on friends, no?
I plan on being there. Well, we got a show to do.
Good.
I plan on being there. I know when I'm on Wayne's show, he gives me a hard time.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't had me on in a long time.
He's my mentor. Yeah, like
You get on this show more often than I do, for crying out loud.
You need to talk with him, and you need to say, Wayne, I'm going to sponsor one of your walks on the rail trail.
Oh, I don't know about that.
His walks. I said.
His walks. Yeah, I will. I'm pleading to our audience to let Dennis on your show, Wayno, because when I was after I retired from being judge of probate, I was on the town council for 6 really great years, which we accomplished a lot, and you're seeing a lot of it happening now in town. I think the last big item to be finished is the jewel in the crown. That's the high school renovation. But we definitely got a lot of things done with the help of the entire community, and I think it's made a big difference in town. Just like the Railroad Museum makes a big difference in town. Just like the Thread Museum makes a big difference in town. The airport, the river. We have all kinds of good things here. WILI AM and FM.
95.3.
95.3 and even 98.3, is it?
That's our sister station.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
But they're in the back.
Yes.
That's Keith Price now, right?
Hey, let's get some of the staff at ILI mad and say, well, the heroes at ILI are Matt and Wayne and Dennis
Well, I'm just
and John. That'll piss off everybody else.
Well,
Matt can deal with that.
I have to say that over the years, I definitely have annoyed Keith Rice many times, and also Colin. And although we're good friends, and I love them both, and I think they feel the same way about me, but I'm not sure.
They're good folks.
They are really good folks.
ILI has played big role in this community. I mean, just growing up here. I mean, if nothing else, listening to Wayne's voice, and he would go, "Norm, is it a snow day?" And I would go, "Yes!" Click.
When you were
and
a
go
kid.
back and roll back over.
You're going way back.
I'm
now.
going way back, yes.
You're going back farther than
But
before I met you.
I'm trying to illustrate the thank you factor.
That's great. No, the station is amazing, and I'm real happy. Sometimes people complain to me about certain things about the radio station, and more often I hear things about the Chronicle, and I say, you know what, you would miss them both if they left. I said, we're lucky.
Miss them terribly, yes.
Terribly.
I mean,
We're lucky.
How many communities don't have that anymore? And it's sad.
I can tell you right now, communities of this size having a AM and FM or 2 FM stations right under one roof, plus a daily newspaper. Communities of this size doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Not anymore.
No. Sadly,
not anymore.
Very sadly, but it's true.
It is sad, but it's true. But we're still holding out because this is a very special community, and I think part of it has to do with.
Well, yeah, it's the Willimantic, Mansfield, Coventry, Wyndham, Lebanon. You know, that conurbation is damn important.
But we are the center. We are the center of that universe here in Willimantic, and Wyndham. Let's say I'll say Wyndham too.
Dennis, it's been great to travel through the center of time and the universe with you.
But anyway, that is. I think UConn has a lot to do with it. I think Eastern has a lot to do with it.
Well,
but I could.
Money do they put in the community? It's amazing.
I could go on, but I'll tell you.
We'll do that next week, Dennis.
The museum is amazing, and you know I read a little bit of the history. I reread it actually to refresh my recollection. As Matt knows, I always try to at least I'll do a little preparation for the show, and the year 1991 seemed to stand out.
Yeah, that was really our formative. Right? Well, trying to do this real quick. The formative idea for the museum came from the initial group was actually the Friends of the Valley Railroad or such. In the mid-'80s, was looking to separate from the Valley Railroad. They were looking for another location around southern New England. And they looked at Willimantic from 1980s, about 87 to 91. They talked about locating in Willimantic and organized things around here. And then when New England Central, well, CV at the Central Vermont at the time, would not give permission to cross their trackage to do a ride like down toward Wyndham or Baltic, they decided to leave, but over 175 members had become involved in the Wyndham area, and we decided to keep together, keep working on what was here and develop further, and develop within what we could in the town above Bridge Street, with the Columbia Junction, the Roundhouse, and everything. So we formed not only the museum, but also a chapter of the National Railway Historical Society to give some more credence and historical backing to a museum group here. And we've done an amazing job over the years. What you see over there when you tour the museum, you're seeing basically probably over $2 million worth of work from an all-volunteer organization over the last 35 years. You're seeing state grants and small grants from local organizations like the what's the guy on Pleasant Street? The Pajot Fund.
Pajot Trust.
The Pajot Fund has given us, and the Textile Museum and a number of other museums, granting. It's small grants of $2,000 to $5,000, but that's essential when you're trying to write other grants, and that's been for already like a 6-year period. So it's wonderful. And we've gotten grants from the Amherst Railway Society. We've got grants from Mass Bay Railway Society. They are the ones who have often done passenger trains into Willimantic. And people would go to the museums. About 4 or 5 years ago, they did trains 2 years in a row. People would go to lunch at the brew pub and Dairy Queen and come to the museum. And, and if they had time, tour some other stuff downtown. It depended on how much time. And we also did back trips down to the Scotland Dam while those people were touring around here in Willimantic. So, you really have to think about what the museum has meant to the town. And I think there's great growth potential, especially if you're bringing 1,000 more people into apartments in downtown. They can walk to the museum. That's another untapped source. We'll have, you got to see how that develops. But as Dennis is a little more optimistic about what's going on downtown than I am, but that's good. Ray needs a push. But yeah, the museum has developed. The Roundhouse was an amazing piece to actually get grants for. and develop and put together. That's really the focus point for our museum. That and the turntable. And
Yeah,
yes.
I'm going to ask a question about that. From what I read, was the old roundhouse there in the same location?
Yeah, the roundhouse that is there, the railroad built at Columbia Junction because in the 1890s, the New Haven took over the old New York and New England and the railroad that owned the airline, or, putting everything together. And that was to build a bigger facility. So that was built like 1896, 98, right in that period. And then by the time we got into the late 20s, early 30s, the roundhouse was vacated because you had bigger locomotives with longer service times between intersections and where they were stored and things. So the facility was obsolete, so the New Haven actually raised the building to not have to pay insurance on it. But when we came in with the museum, we actually did archaeological work on the site with Nick Bellantonio, the state archaeologist at the time, went through two of the pits at the museum and examined for old tools and memorabilia and things, some of which we have on display in the Groton Freight House. We also explored, back into the original blueprints and things that were on the site. We're still finding pipes, and there's actually like a cistern back there, because actually part of that area is built on fill. So the roundhouse has basement stones that go down under. About 6 courses of granite are down below ground that you can't even see to help hold that foundation. And we built, some stones were formed, it looks like stone, but it's actually cement that was formed to look like the stones to redo and set up the foundation, and then built the 6-stall roundhouse back to the plan and dimensions as it had been. And then we had to pay for doors and windows and the brickwork all separately. That was like another $150,000. They would raise and sell and develop.
I think the roundhouse is the focal point of the museum. I think it is something that you built on. After you completed the new one, you all and I want you to explain to the public and to me again,
I want to explain that word.
What a roundhouse is and what its function is, because unless you see it, I saw them when I was very young.
Back in the Stone Age, when Dennis was young, he grew up in New Breton.
Yeah.
And there was probably a roundhouse in New Breton in Berlin.
I think in Berlin.
I know I'm going to get beat up off the air.
I may be wrong, but I think there
about
was,
that accent.
I know I saw one somewhere.
But think of a roundhouse as a garage, literally for overnight storage of the steam locomotives, because they could bring the local small locomotives to do the daily work around Willimantic. They could bring them in overnight. A hostler they'd dump the ashes and clean the fire and let the steam pressure in the fire die down. Then in the early morning, someone comes in, a different hostler shift, comes in and starts building up the fire and then backs the locomotive over by the coal and the water. They'd fill that and set it up. So when the crews came on, let's say 6 a.m., I don't know the exact starting time. It really doesn't matter. But local engines are ready to go and hitch up to the train and there were at least 2 switchers probably a day in Willimantic for many years. One for the industry out along the airline by Moulton Court and Jackson Street, and another for Bridge Street down by the Freight House and over to American Thread. Because American Thread actually had a siding in the front by 560 Main and down into that area. And also over in the back in the mill, there's a warehouse that actually Providence and Worcester served American Thread till 1980, April of 85 at the back warehouse. And then things were trucked forward into what was worked till American Thread closed in early 85. And then American Thread actually had a narrow gauge railroad that ran in and among the mills. John Walker has a picture of the Helen B up on display in the shoe store. And that was basically kind of a thermos bottle locomotive that they could hook into the plant steam lines, build up the pressure on the locomotive, and run around, because there's dust in a cotton mill. You don't want any fire going through, or, well, you know the rest. You would know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say. I'm Paul Harvey. Who are you,
Listen.
Dennis?
Well, I just want to say the house it's round, and because of the nature of the way it works, how it rotates around. Yeah, get into that.
All right. If you think about the roundhouse as a garage, this is a 6-car garage in our case. In New Haven, they actually had two 48 stall or so roundhouses. One stall would be open and the locomotives could come through. Then the turntable was used to locate it into the particular door you wanted to go into. And what was done even on road locomotives would be light repairs, brake shoes, air tank adjustments that could be done quickly. Heavy servicing would be done at Reedville, Boston, New Haven, possibly Providence or Worcester. Bigger shops, bigger facility, heavier work. But think it's not only a storage garage, but it's where you hide the tools, and think of it if you were in a shop at Wyndham Tech. It's the crib and tool house and workshop, as well as where the repairs are done. And for us as a museum, having that covered facility, that allowed us to bring in equipment for repairs, and so we can work on things during the colder months. Also, we have a few pieces of equipment which are donated with the caveat that they are kept indoors with storage, proper year-round storage, and not out in the weather. And this allows that, as well as restoring other pieces of equipment. Bev York has always wondered, where the hell's my husband? But actually, he was just hiding and working on the 4052 caboose for years and years and years. Duke has probably like 3,000 hours into that caboose as far as the restoration. So you can ask him about that when you come down to the museum.
Come to think of it, I did go see a roundhouse when I was a very young child, and don't forget, I'm a World War II baby, so that's a while ago. But it was a field trip.
Is that World War I or World War II?
No, come on, Ray. World War II. Anyway, I started school in the 40s, okay? And I was a little kid, and I
You're
went
as
on a
old
trip.
as my brother.
Okay. Well, that's not date you. I went on a trip. I went on a field trip with my little friends and our teachers to a roundhouse. Some sort of a railroad facility, and it had a roundhouse. And we
You
were
don't know
amazed.
if it was Hartford, Berlin, or Middletown?
Don't know. I was maybe 7. And we were amazed by the way the thing went around. They could back an engine out, and then they could go around again, back another engine out. And that's the way, it was just amazing. And it enables them to store these gigantic machines all in a small area.
We have tiny ones too.
And big ones, but tiny ones too, in a very small area.
Yeah, and what Dennis is saying about backing them around and turning around is, yes, you can turn a locomotive and get it repositioned. Like if something came in from Providence and they're going to put that locomotive back on the train to go back to Providence, put it on the other end, they want to do that. Or sometimes you had freight go into a boxcar a certain way, so you had to turn the boxcar to get the delivery to be able to come off to the right door. Things like that.
Okay, I'm getting the look from Matt Rupar that it's time for a break, and we were just joined by Susan Johnson coming through saw her in the window, overjoyed, delighted,
She came
and
to
whatnot.
defend Dennis.
And-
No,
but
I
you
came to say hello.
You-
And thank you, Ray Axelrod, for being here.
And you came in just in time for our break.
Well, that's
So
good.
we'll set you loose in a few minutes, and you can ask some of the questions. But don't forget, Ray, what are we here for? We're really here to.
We're here for Railroad Day. We want to see everybody we can down at the museum on September 2nd. Come on down. Music, train rides, operation of the turntable, so you can see Dennis try to stop the thing.
No, I want to
and go
marvel at
skidding.
it. I want to watch it.
And lots of displays. We'll have tables with the railroad memorabilia for sale. And as he said, music. We might even get Dennis to play some music.
No,
I
I
don't
can't
know
play anything.
No, whether that's
I'm
good
just-
or bad thing.
I think it's good.
He's going to sing.
I think it's good, but most people don't.
Come on down.
Anyway, come on down. We'll be right back with Ray Axelrod, Matt Rupar, and Susan Johnson. Hey, Dennis O'Brien blasting off on the second half. I don't think I've ever said that before. That's I'm still creative in my old age. Blasting off with Ray Axelrod, and Susan Johnson will be right in. Matt Rupar's here. We've been talking about the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum and Railroad Day coming up on September 2nd, right, Ray?
Yes, Dennis, it's great. It's been a growing event each year, and we try to come up with different things. But the basic theme with the rides and kids enjoying themselves and adult kids like Dennis enjoying themselves.
I've ridden.
it counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're always doing work down at the museum site, so things are changing. There's always progress. Also, we're always looking for volunteers, and you don't have to just be a train fan. We need grant writers, we need cleanup, we need painting, you name it, we need it. Being a volunteer organization is hard at any time, and it's been especially hard since COVID, whether it's the Textile Museum, Proust Crandall, Wadsworth Atheneum, or us. Of course, we're as big as Wadsworth Atheneum, right?
Well,
someday.
In a way, I must say that my good friend from the town hall, who used to be the town planner, and when I was in the probate court, and I had many conversations with him, provided great service to the town, James Finger.
Yeah.
I had no idea until I saw on Facebook. He puts pictures of himself and others working on the railroad. I've been working on the railroad, and that's a song for John Tuitt. Anyway, that's an obvious one.
You can come up with only a list of about 200 railroad songs.
Yeah, I think we can come up with 200, but I'm not going to. I'll let you work on that.
Okay.
I'll give you a list of all of Dylan's railroad songs, and I'm sure that I'll give them to John Tuitt.
Okay.
If he does a train day.
It's a plan.
But anyway.
Train day, train day on the radio. Now we're talking.
Well,
whole day, 6 to 6.
Train day, yeah. Well, he's done it. He's done it before. He does it around this time because of your event, and I've been to the event many times.
He's done great. Patty has played a couple of times with her band at Railroad Day and other events.
Great band.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been getting bigger and better every year, and we're hoping that Wayno will provide us with good weather on September 2nd. It's a Saturday.
I think that's in his contract with us.
I think that's part of the deal.
We'll pay for the weather if he provides good weather.
And by the way, you're going to be appearing on Wayne's show in a few days. Yep. You're going to follow up your appearance on Let's Talk About It with Dennis and Susan and Matt with Wayne Norman, one-on-one. Ray and Wayne talking railroads, trains, and the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum.
Poor Dennis is going to have to take aspirin that morning when he tunes in.
I will tune in because I will be up. I get up at 8 mostly, never after 8, and you're not getting on until 8:10.
Right.
So I will hear the whole thing, and I will let you both know what I thought of the show. I will.
I do cool.
it. I'm sure it'll be great.
You're good constructive criticism.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you're going to give some right on Railroad Day when you get your tail down there and come on down and visit
I'm going to be there, and I'm also going to be promoting, asking John Tuitt to do a train day for Friday or Thursday this week.
That would be great.
To help promote the event, and I'm sure John will be willing, and I will also supply him with, I think Bob Dylan's got about 4 songs or maybe 5 that involve trains.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one called "Slow Train" coming, which is a great song, but there's other train songs too. So and one of my favorite train songs is "The City of New Orleans" by Arlo Guthrie.
It's not really by Arlo Guthrie.
Well, he sang it.
He sang it, but he revised it, and Steve Goodman did not necessarily like all of that.
Yeah, but I liked Arlo's version of it, and I saw him do it right here in Wyndham, right here in Willimantic at Rec Park. Yeah, and Wayne was there too.
Yeah, and didn't we also have? I think I saw Arlo barely one time at Shaboo.
I did not see him at Shaboo.
I think I have 3 or 4 concerts that I actually made at Shaboo, and that would be Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Bonnie Raitt, and I think Arlo.
Well, you saw some good ones. Wow, Bonnie Raitt. I saw Bonnie Raitt's father at the Oakdale, John Raitt.
Okay.
He sang in in plays like Oklahoma and Carousel, and he was a great, great singer.
You want to sing the?
No, I'm not going to sing.
Okay, I thought we were gonna get together and go Oklahoma, where the
No,
wind
no,
blows."
no. That's not.
Enough of that. I know.
That's not my
We're
favorite
just
show.
scared away the audience.
That's not my favorite. No, that's not my favorite show. That wasn't bad. That's not my favorite show tune. You know who loves show tunes more than anybody I know of my generation? Wayne Norman. You ask him.
I can imagine.
When he was a kid, his mother used to take him to Broadway shows.
Wow.
You know, when they played in California, and probably when after he moved to Connecticut, because Wayne lived pretty close to New York. He lived in Fairfield County when he was a kid, when he was an older kid, and I bet but he loves to see Broadway shows.
Wow.
Still.
I can half top that anecdote as far as Broadway shows and things, because my Uncle Ben, his tale was he worked for the railroad summers, like 1916, 18, and 19, and one story was that when the truce was declared, he and a couple of friends kind of took a locomotive and ran it up from the Roundhouse down to Bridge Street and back or something, tooting and celebrating.
Which war?
World War One.
Okay, I was going to say that you said.
I gave the right year.
You said 1918, so
Yeah.
I wanted to be straight on
Yeah.
that. Okay.
And also,
That's before my time.
Ben and his future wife Mary, he would go in on the week. He worked for the Bulletin and the Chronicle through those early years, teens, 20s. And he would, when they were courting, he would go in. She worked in New York. He would go in on the weekend, spend the weekend with her, and they would go to a Broadway show.
Fantastic. By
So,
train.
yeah,
But-
just what you're talking about is,
Well,
similar admiration
I don't wanna
of
dig-
Broadway.
I don't want to digress too long, but
Why not?
My first train trip anywhere was on June 3rd, 1951. That's the day my father took me to a baseball game at the Polo Grounds in New York City. Two baseball games. It was a doubleheader, Cardinals versus Giants. I saw Willie Mays when he was a rookie. I saw Stan the Man. And you know what? I loved the Berlin train station. I took many trips with him before he passed away to New York City. He passed away when I was 17. Between the ages of 7 and I was 7 when I took my first trip. Between the ages of 7 and 17, we must have taken the train to New York City 15 to 20 times for sporting events, usually Statue of Liberty too, things like that.
There's something funny Dennis is making me think of, because a lot of my friends are like, how the hell does Ray get every subject around trains? And here we have an example of how the hell does Dennis bring every show he's on around to baseball.
Well,
This is a good question. You can talk about it next week.
don't get me going, but I love trains. I love riding on a train.
You love baseball better.
Oh, well, yeah. Best of all, I love that woman who was just here a minute ago, Susan Johnson.
Cool.
But in any case, and she knows it, and now the whole world knows it. I think they know anyway.
They knew it before.
I think they
I'm
knew it before.
positive, sir.
Anyway, thank you. Anyway, I just want to go. I'm really excited about the next week. I'm really excited about next Saturday at the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum. The museum opens actually at 10.
Right.
The event starts at 11.
The museum is open from 10 to 4. It's our formal day. And then even after Railroad Day, we're participating with Last Green Valley in the Walktober. And we're open the end of the season will be the last Saturday in October. Just to mention and give people further schedule, if you can't make Railroad Day, we're open Saturdays each year from the first Saturday in May to the last Saturday in October. But do come on down for Railroad Day. It's our biggest event of the year. We'll have lots of things going on, train rides all day. The main part of the event, again, is 11 to 3 on Saturday the 2nd.
You'll see me trying to ride the pump car, right? Got to do that pump car. Boom, 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 up and down.
Yep.
I think I can
He's
still
going to
do
go
it.
around the world in 170 days instead of 80.
I think I can still do it.
He may not be the fastest, but he's
No.
good.
Not anymore. But anyway, I'm so looking forward to it, and I'd love to hear what's Duke York's. He's in several bands, but the band he's
Well, he was in a band called the Electric Trains.
That's right,
But
he
that
was.
no longer
That's right.
formally exists.
That's
So there's a
defunct
few
now.
different names.
Yeah.
And he used to perform as a duo with Gary Nass.
Right. Oh
For
yeah.
years.
That was for years. Yeah.
And Duke has been a wonderful addition to the stage, and as well as many other bands we've had and performers over the years at Railroad Day and at our concert series and everything.
Well, he's performing in my backyard on a benefit for the Thread Museum. Yeah.
Yep.
Bruce John has been there. David Foster. We've done a number of benefits for the Thread Museum over the years in our backyard because our house is historic.
Yeah.
It's the
And
former home of the people who owned Electromotive, Josie Greer and Jesse Greer.
Yep.
And
My aunt sewed curtains for them. Does anybody know Bessie? I grew up going, are you related to Bessie? Are you related to Bessie? And I finally said no, just to get people's attention.
very good. All right.
But what actually Dennis brought up, Textile Museum, I heard people from the Textile Museum were on the Wednesday
With John Murphy.
with John Murphy.
I heard that show.
And,
Good show.
mentioned our event. I'd like to mention their event. They've got coming up. They've got a book sale this weekend.
Very good.
Over at Dugan. And I don't know if I think they're doing a table down at the Railroad Museum on Railroad Day. They are co-museums, Gilson Textile Museum and the Railroad Museum, have done many events together, and that's essential too, that we're all part of the community and one complements the other. It may not be the same day, but if you look over the years, how much tourism. When Quilter's Dream was in town, it was nice because they brought in busloads to the quilt shop, went to lunch at the brew pub, then went to the Textile Museum. And when we've had bus groups, people go to to a local restaurant, they'll come to our museum, they may go to other museums. It all works out. And by the way, this is a non-Willimantic museum, if I'm allowed to talk about them.
Ooh.
I don't know the date, but I know the Lebanon Historical Society is doing work songs, and train songs would probably be involved in work songs.
Yeah, I would think so.
So look for that concert too if you're interested. It's somewhere in the next couple of weekends.
In any event, we're talking about a special event that we're focused on, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's great the way people, there are a lot of people involved in organizations, some of which have some paid staff, many of which have volunteers like Ray Axelrod. And I mentioned James Finger and Duke York and Bev York and others, we do tend to work together. We're not in competition with each other,
No.
and we are all for not only Windham but the entire Windham area.
Yeah, and
But-
it helps when you write a grant to bring collaborations together, because the more we're collaborating with the other museums or with downtown or doing our publicity we share a table with the Textile Museum at Third Thursday. It all helps.
Well, one of the reasons we do this show is to promote organizations like the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum, the Thread Museum, the Gilson House, and all the other great entities around here that provide all kinds of good things for our town and attract people into town, and make people want to be here and want to live here, maybe invest here. It's a synergy, and the building. The buildings that we've done in the past few years all add to that. It's made the town more attractive, I think, to people from outside.
So Dennis, with all that build up, when do I get my Let's Talk About It T-shirt?
Oh, wow.
That's we could do that. We have
We have a sign.
we have a sign here.
I can take a picture.
Yeah, that's the best idea I have heard in a couple of years. On the air, and there's been a lot of good ones, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, that is
We
a
should
good
have a
idea.
Let's Talk About It T-shirt, and
Yeah.
I'm wearing a WIL. And those of you who are watching on radio and who get a chance to watch this when
It's
it shows,
not a new one, folks.
no, it's not a new one. This is a a vintage, as Matt Rupar said when I walked in. That's a vintage T-shirt, and you can tell it's vintage because it's a little tight on me. It's a long sleeve shirt. It's a little tight, and but it's beautiful. And I think we're going to do that, Susan. We're going to go down and see Mr. What's it, Vining,
Vining, yes.
Mr. Vining, and have him print up some local guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Guy
I
we
need
know
one.
very well, and we have connections with him from way up in Maine too. And we are going to go and see him, and we are going to get some Let's Talk About It T-shirts printed.
Oh, this
I
is
think that's a great idea. We could march together in the Boombox Parade or whatever, because everybody wants to march in the Boombox Parade.
So I better march next year with my Let's Talk About It T-shirt.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
march.
I think you'll get one.
You can march with the
You'll
Railroad
get
Museum,
you will
but
get
wear
one.
your Let's Talk About It T-shirt.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
idea. Yeah,
All right.
and-
All right, that's gonna
And I
be
was
great.
trying to pick on him.
We have to. We
It's
have.
hard. It's hard to pick.
We
up.
have to give him one. He has to get one of the first ones
Yes,
off
he does.
the.
We'll have to have
off
him on
the
the
loom
show
or
and
whatever.
give him an honorary.
We'll
Let's
have
Talk
him on
About
the
It
show and give him
t-shirt,
a.
yeah.
Yeah, if we could get it done
You
in
can grill
time.
me.
Yeah, great.
Submit
Fantastic.
the questions before the show, please.
Very good. Okay, so Susan's back.
Yes, I just want to thank Ray Axelrod for being here, and I want to thank everybody who works on that Railroad Museum to make it such a great place for Wyndham. It really adds to the character of this area and the town, and I just hope that at some point in time we're gonna have a Railroad Museum, and then we're gonna go moving into the future with fast rail. For everybody all throughout the country, especially in Connecticut. So I'm hoping for that.
Oh, you hit a nerve there, Ray Axelrod.
Now my head's spinning. I want to go on that fast train.
We've talked about that before
Took
with
3
Ray.
days to get out to Seattle earlier this year.
And the fast rail?
Not so fast rail.
Yeah, that must have been fun though, Ray. I'm sure you
It-
enjoyed the hell out of it.
Well, not the third day evening.
Okay.
By
All right.
by somewhere in there, sitting in the coach seat gets to you. But
Oh,
Yeah.
you
by
gotta
the
get one of
next
those
morning, you're all
stretchy,
refreshed again and
stretchy
like,
out.
That's
good.
right.
The next train ride.
That's right.
It's a
Exciting.
beautiful ride, though.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
I want to
ride.
do that.
Yeah, we were booked to go to St. Louis last year, and there was a potential strike, and I got a call. I got a call from Amtrak a day before we were supposed to leave, a day or two before we were supposed to leave for St. Louis, that our train was canceled, and we were gonna, we were going to go.
They
on
didn't
a-
want. Yeah, they didn't want you midway.
Right, that's right, and then and they and we were going to go in a sleeper. And that would have been what an experience.
That's nice.
Yeah, that would have
I've
been
done
nice.
that.
One way.
I've done
I think,
that. That's nice.
I think the other way we would have been riding in the seat,
And
but-
getting kick in your back.
but it was only to
It's a
St.
nice crick.
It wasn't all the way to Seattle. It was only to St. Louis, and that is anyway. But that's my latest train story.
So we drove sitting up the whole way.
We drove sitting up the whole way. Susan drove most of the way because Susan is a real hardy soul, and she can do it.
Oh, thank you.
She
thank
can
you,
do
thank
it. Susan just drove to Toronto
you. Yes.
and back by
Right.
herself.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do that. I'd be worried about falling asleep.
No, I'm not asleep when I'm driving.
Not you. No,
I'm
you're
all wired out when I
You're
drive.
amazing. You're amazing.
And in fact, it took me 2 hours to wind down afterwards, and I'd
Some
been up
coffee
around the
was
clock.
sold there.
Do you think?
Anyway, Ray, what's going to happen on the
On Saturday,
2nd
September
of
2nd,
September?
come down and see us at the Railroad Museum right off Bridge Street. Please come to Railroad Day. Bug Ray, bug everybody else at the museum. Take your train ride. Have possibly some food. I'm not sure how that's come out, but we'll have music. We'll have train rides. We'll have the kids' play area, as well as face painting by Eastern students. Eastern has been great over the years with volunteers among the students working at the museum as well as participating in Railroad Day and Opening Day. All right, I'm going to pass it back to the bosses here.
We're talking about September 2nd, and Ray is also going to appear on the Wayne Norman Show on Tuesday, the 29th of August, beginning at 8:10 a.m. I will be listening, and I hope you all do too. You never can get enough Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum.
I'm sure Dennis is calling in that day.
He thought I was going to say you can never get enough of Ray Axelrod, but I'm gonna leave it.
I can get enough of me.
I'm going to leave it at that. But we don't see you that often, Ray, and it's really a pleasure to have you on the show. And we're going to work with John Tuitt and try to get John Tuitt to do a day on train songs this week to highlight that
That would be great.
the
I want
railroad
to say
days are coming
thanks
up.
to Wayne and and to maybe to Matt. I don't know. And to Dennis and Susan, and thanks a lot.
Matt is telling you got 8 seconds left. Anyway, great show. Great having you on the show. We'll see you Saturday, September 2nd at the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum, 55 Bridge Street, I believe it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and Susan will be there.
Toot toot.
I will be there, and everybody else should be there too.
There'll be a lot of great people there. Matt Rupar, thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for listening in. And we'll be back next week with another great guest. And the day after that, we'll be going to the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum. Thank you.